Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. And this afternoon, for a little look back on the Glasgow derby, I'm joined by Chris McElwain, Sean Conley, and Kevin McCluskey. We have a view from Hungary, one from Australia, and a couple from Scotland. Chris, I'm going to start with you. Just sum that up for me. That was complete control.
Where do you start? Brilliant. I mean, look, I would have liked a few more goals in the second half, but I think that's as comfortable a victory as I've seen for a long time. And look, Rangers had a go towards the end because they had to. And I'm wondering if we've actually signed Casper or Peter Schmeichel, because that was Peter Schmeichel in his prime towards the end there. But we spoke both before the match and at half time that how settled this Celtic first 11 is at the moment. The question mark might have been over Bernardo. Well, by God, he answered every question put to him today. He was tremendous. I think all of our big players turned up today. Kuhn, I thought, was largely excellent, very well. And I thought Hatate, I don't think it was his most effective game. As we said at halftime, I like his initiative. I thought he played well. Callum McGregor, captain's performance. He's another player, I think, who's starting to feel maybe the pressure's off him a little bit now with this side, and he can actually venture forward late in games, and he can knock those shots into the net. I've got to say, defensively, all four of our defensive players, our back line were excellent, but Liam Scales, well done. That was outstanding. I felt as though every shot that came in, he was in front of. I really did. I thought he was outstanding. I thought he was strong, stood up well, didn't look phased, didn't fade out the game in any way. And look, as we said, we've talked about, we want Liam Scales to release the ball faster. We want him to, contribute more to the attack. But first and foremost, he's a defender. And when you do have teams, even what I would say is a very poor Rangers team, but when you've got a team that are pressing and trying to get something from the game, you need your defenders to stand up tall. And I thought Liam Scales was excellent. So really, credit where it's due. But I cannot fault a single player today. I thought they were excellent. Really, really chuffed. Brilliant. Delighted.
Well, no, I'm glad to hear it, and it's very positive. I know we spent a wee bit of time at half time, Kevin, talking about the goal that was chopped off, but 3-0 and absolute dominance by the Celtic side. And in the second half, like we were texting this morning, I was like, just wait till 60 minutes and we start bringing on the big guns, and we did that as well. And it's shown that we do have other gears. It's not just the first half performance was typical Brendan this season, in control. Some of the passing movements were incredible. The goal scored by Maeda, for example, you look at the entire move involving 4 or 5 players, sensational bit of football. But then what we've now got is we've got that depth as well. And we showed that by bringing on some of the new signings in the second half.
Yeah, I think all 4 of the goals that we scored, because I'll include the first one that doesn't count, were all excellent goals. Because even for that one, it's the weight of the pass and the time that McGregor releases it to send was it Kuhn away initially. So every goal that we scored today was top drawer. I'll echo Chris's sentiments there that I would like to have seen us score a few more goals, because I felt we had it in us today. This could have been a legitimate 4 or 5-0 victory.
Mm-hmm.
But there's almost an element that's a little bit more pleasing in the fact that we kept it to 3, because we just dominated the whole of the second. Dominated the game. We dominated the second half. Rangers might have had some chances, and they did a little bit more territory than we would have liked. But in all honesty, they very rarely threatened and really looked like scoring. Schmeichel's saves only come in the final 5-10 minutes of the game when it's already over. Up until that point, really, we were in cruise control. And it felt almost like a game. If Rangers had managed to sneak a goal at 2-0 to make it 2-1, we'd have gone down the park and made it 3 and 4. We had it in us, I felt, to go up another gear. And for the first time since Rodgers has come in, we've been able to turn to the bench and go, there's a record signing to come off. There's the guy that was the record signing to come off the bench until 2 days ago. There's Celtic fan to come off the bench and make his debut, who isn't just a Celtic fan, he's one of the best Scottish midfielders in the league here. So we had that strength and depth that we haven't really had since Rodgers has been in charge. We used it all, and it was a dominant performance. We really showed them who the biggest and best side in Glasgow in the country is. and it was an absolute pleasure to sit and watch it.
It was a pleasure to watch. Schmeichel's been mentioned a couple of times, Sean, albeit it would have been a consolation goal. He stepped up. He absolutely stepped up to the point where Greg Taylor just stayed down and watched the game unfold, knowing that Schmeichel was behind. Do you see that at the end? I'm just going to sit and watch this here from the back, and Schmeichel saves it anyway. But we do have that reassurance. It was great to see Joe Hart in the stands, obviously, in the director's box with his family, but it is moving into more of a Brendan team. When Schmeichel gets the ball at his feet, for example, didn't see too many examples of it today, but you feel confident that he's going to find a man and we can transition into attack. But when they break, when they get a chance, as inevitably will happen this season, Schmeichel's tremendous at the back. He's dominant. He's a force to be reckoned with. And I think Chris hinted at the beginning of the game, I think he is an upgrade on what we had last season.
He certainly seems to be. And let's be honest, the team won the game today. Schmeichel saves didn't win as a game. It's not like plucky Dundee come to Celtic Park and the goalkeeper has a stormer. It wasn't like that. The only thing that Schmeichel actually won today was my coupon. But so, which was 3-0, so I got that one up.
Sean, you went on the phone to Brendan at half time where he's saying, just one more, mate, just one more. Calm it down at
3-0. I don't know, like if we try and summarize the game in just a few points, you say, okay, Dallas has cheated us out of the opening goal, but then we score 2 real quality goals in the first half from Maeda and Kyogo. Kyogo is one to remember. That'll go down alongside Maloney, and Nakamura is a real classic derby goal. Bernardo absolutely dominates for an hour when he's on the pitch.
Yeah.
Scales dominates the whole game. It's sensational. Engels, our record signing, comes on for his debut. Doesn't get too involved, but he doesn't do anything wrong really. The player that actually comes on and make a difference more is actually Forrest, who came on and actually really lifted us and allows us to get that third goal from a Callum McGregor screamer, who's our joint top scorer with Kuhn, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe would be the joint scorer in the league because one of Kuhn's goals came in the cup. And Kasper Schmeichel pulls up a couple of great saves at the end. I think that pretty much sums it up. If I missed anything other than whatever Christoph Waltz joke we want to chuck in there.
No, I think that's a good summary of the game. Chris, were you going to jump in there with?
I was going to say, when are we getting Christoph on This Is Acsom? Because he's clearly a Celtic
He's just
fan.
above me. Can you see him?
Yeah.
Well, there is that. Oh, by now you've mentioned it. Oh my Lord, that's going to stick. That is going to stick. Some individual performances that I think should merit further discussion. You're right, Sean. Schmeichel didn't keep us in the game. I just think it's an element of this team that could have been improved, and I think we've done it. I think we have improved it. And going into the Champions League games, I always make a list of the guys that I think are Champions League ready. You're replacing someone who I felt was in Joe Hart with someone who definitely is in Kasper Schmeichel. Jamesy Forrest comes on to make his 500th appearance. He's now the 13th player in the history of the football club to make 500 or more competitive appearances for Celtic. The first thing he done, he ran at Rangers. It's like Sean says, he upped the tempo, he ran. He made a meme of Tavernier. Did you see that? He just fell over. It was like that Davy Weir meme. Remember that one? And and he did seem to lift us. That was the area, Chris, we were kind of banging on about before the game, that we were a wee bit disappointed we never got in another winger. I'm happy on the right-hand side with Kuhn and Forrest. I really am. Particularly in games like this. It's the other side I'm a wee bit concerned about. If Maeda has to come off or miss a game, I'm not sure Palmer's shown the bollocks for a game like this, the chutzpah, to come in and actually make a difference. But Forrest came in and he does what Forrest does, and it's great for him. 500th appearance, the crowd rose to their feet, and he's a club legend, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. And listen, I don't think he's done yet. I think he's got a chance to go on and make some more history this season. Hopefully we're really well positioned to do so. One of the best things about Forrest, and maybe this was a little bit of a damning indictment of Palma and Yang, is that Forrest can come on, he can either play on the right or he can play on the left, and he seems to be the choice to replace either side. The fact Maeda stayed on the park so long today tells me that maybe there isn't quite the same level of confidence on that side as there is between Kuhn and Forrest on the right. So, but look, I want every player to have an opportunity this season and go and really contribute to what I hope is going to be a really successful season. But James Forrest, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. He comes on, he lifts the crowd. He's a different type of player than he was for 5 or 6 years ago. You know, this is a different James Forrest. I think this is a much more intelligent James Forrest when it comes to his on-field play. He is a player you can depend on to help manage the game, but he also gives you that attacking threat as well. He doesn't necessarily have the pace that he always has, but I think his movement is, for me, it's far more clever, you know, and really demonstrates that on-field intelligence compared to, say, the young guy that we always felt was a prospect for so many years. You know, we thought this is the next big thing, and he seemed to carry that tag for a lot of years, and it's only been really in the latter years of his career he's became this really established and now actually an invaluable player. And let's face it, a lot of fans were writing him off last year and saying, well, that's him, he's done, he's one of the players that's potentially going to leave. And I'll be one of them. I thought he's a player I've always rated. He's a player that I've been equally frustrated by, because earlier in his career I thought he should have been, you know, up in his level and just getting better and better. But he's absolutely done that now, and I think you cannot underestimate his contribution over the course of his career to the club. But the contributions he's made in the last couple of years, I thought he was one of the big differences towards the last third of the season last year. He came in and he brought the level of the team up. He came in and he did a job, and he done it really, really well. And I think the rest of the team got a lift from that. So, look, James Forrest can play one more game. He can play another 100 games, as far as I'm concerned. But he's a legend, and we should view him as a legend. And we should be grateful that we had a player like him at the club.
Yeah, without a doubt. Absolutely agree with every single sentiment of that. Pinball, here we go. Starting to think we might turn some heads in the Champions League. I'll ask you, Kevin McCluskey. Obviously, we had the Champions League draw. Razzmatazz, box office. Cristiano Ronaldo with the easiest job in European football. Just press the buzzer, mate. And that was it. And obviously, we've got 4 home games, 4 away games. Some tricky ties, obviously. I've heard a lot of people saying, you know, that's the best draw we could have had. It's a favourable draw. How do you think we're going to fare? Because we know the squad that we've got. Engels might come into a game. You know, there's other players we've brought into the team. Valle, we didn't see him today, who might make a big impression. But are you satisfied? Are we ever satisfied, Kevin, going into these campaigns?
Probably never satisfied, are we? Because you look at that transfer window and we'll look at it and go, we wanted another winger. We wanted another centre forward, because can we really just run with the 2? We wanted this, we wanted that. You're never, ever going to be fully satisfied. But I think we managed to tick a lot of the boxes in the main positions that we wanted filled. We got a hugely experienced goalkeeper in Schmeichel, who I think is an upgrade in Joe Hart. As much as we went on about him last season as being Player of the Year candidate, and the amount of big saves that he made in big moments in games, there's something else about Schmeichel. He's definitely better with the ball at his feet, so he gets things moving a lot quicker than Joe Hart did, and he looks a really, really safe pair of hands. At no point today, with any of the chances that Rangers had, did you think they were going to score. You just had complete confidence in Schmeichel, and I think he'll give us that going into the European games, which is massive, because you need to have that coming from the back. And then, looking at the rest of the team, like Callum McGregor's there, Carter Vickers is there, Kyogo's there. The spine of the team is strong. We've got good players that can play off them. I think Engels will be a really good player for us at that level, because he's used to playing in Germany at a high level. And if you do look at the draw, I've seen I think it might have been Opta that came out with their graphic on it. And by all accounts, we have the easiest draw out of all the teams in the tournament in terms of our ability against the opposition. I don't know if I buy into that completely, but
when you add up the coefficients, we've got the easiest.
Yeah, we've got the easiest draw. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that we're going to guarantee us anything. I think it gives us a bit of hope and confidence that we might be able to get a decent tournament. And I think 10 points is the magic number that they say we need to be. Was it one of the top 24 or 25? Don't think that's an unrealistic goal for us to aim for out of the 8 games that we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm dead excited about it, and hopefully we'll be able to organise a few Acsom away days where we can get footage from the various cities we'll be visiting. Lucy,
I'm gutted that the
I know.
Bratislava game's actually in Glasgow because it's only 2.5 hours down the road for me.
You could have been the man with the mic.
Switch that one around for me. Yes.
Mhm. Maeda had that Tavernier disorientated.
He is mentally defeated against Maeda. It's like, and Sutton pointed out at one point, he just gave up, and I was like, he's just had enough, right? He's had enough. He can't take it anymore. He's mentally beat.
And you just look over and he's got that little smirk on his face. Maeda, just rubbing his face in the dirt every single time we play them. Personal Jesus, Christopher Walks heading up the road to text DiCaprio and Tarantino all about the Celtic way. Mr. Whip comes in to say, wonder if Souness will be saying there's no gap between the teams after this. Now, listen, we all come into these things knowing that we wear a certain shade of green tinted specs. But if anyone thinks there's no gap between these teams, it's just either favouritism, stupidity, or they just don't know the game, Sean. And we have to put up with it, the Scottish media, time and time again. There's a lot of puppets out there who'll just, try and stay on the right side of the team they used to play for. But I think today actually set down a marker, which often the first game against Rangers can, to say this is the gap here. This is the gap, and we're only going to get better once these new signings bed in. So Rangers can do nothing between now and January to get themselves any better or better equipped to face Celtic. And I made the bold prediction during the week that Aberdeen are pushing for second. Do you think that was a wee bit too early? Was that premature?
I seen that, Paul. You got you made quite a fire on social media, despite you not even be the one that raised that. The Sky Sports reporter
answered the question.
Exactly, he was the one that actually baited you into it, and that was the headlines thereafter. Yeah, look, they're 5 points clear. Aberdeen are tied with us. We're ahead in goal difference. I don't know when we play Aberdeen, to be honest. I've not, to be honest, domestic games are kind of, I don't want to be arrogant about it, but we should have the same approach to all of them. Do you know what I mean? We should be bookmarking the European games, and domestic games should be domestic games. Maybe home games against bottom half teams, you can start rotating the squad, but I'd hope that, let's be honest, Aberdeen aren't going to, they're going to pick up a couple of injuries. They don't have the depth and quality. Fair enough, they don't have Europe to do, so that will keep them in touch for a while. But unless they're in touch after 35 games, I'm not really taking it seriously. But it is quite funny to hope that they are going to have a battle for second place with Lazarus FC.
I thought you were going to say it's funny to throw a grenade and then switch your phone off for a day or two.
Is that what you did?
Sometimes that's what you've got to do. AGSC Tech, offensively, we were so exciting. Kyogo shouldn't go for the luxury chip at 2-0 as the game is still unbalanced. He did. And I want to talk a wee bit about Kyogo. He gets the ball in the net twice. We've spoken at half-time. We were all in agreement the first goal should have stood. And I love what Sean said in relation to, see some of that money that's still in the bank, seeing how we made a profit in the transfer window, go and buy the best quality VAR system and install it at Celtic Park anyway, and start showing us some of the proper graphics of these decisions, and start actually going toe-to-toe with officials, because some of the decisions are shocking, and the first one was. But let's talk about Kyogo's performance. He gets his goal, Chris, and I think there's a few moments I'd like to point out. The first one was his defensive twice. I saw him back defending. One of them was highlighted. He ran 60 yards and made the tackle. Him and Scales went in heavy-handed on the guy, and it was a great tackle. The other one was, it was a tremendous break by Kyogo, and he couldn't quite find Kuhn. And then, of course, the wee dink that was highlighted. But overall, Manchester City links, we called them out for being nonsense at the time. They were nonsense. It's the agency trying to get a wee bit of interest in the player. Kyogo will score his 100th goal for Celtic this season. He will have another, for me, prolific campaign under Brendan Rodgers. And he's still the first pick, without a doubt. And he showed that again today, how great and how important he is in these derby games.
Yeah, my little boy was delighted. That's his player, so he was delighted today when the goal went in. That's that's one of the best things about being both a Celtic fan and a father, is you get to share things like that with with your son. With me and my dad, it was Larson. With me and my son, it's Kyogo, and it's brilliant. Look, on his performance today, I think he he's a player who wants to score and he enjoys scoring, right? Like most strikers. But he's just a player that he enjoys football. You can tell that. You can see it the way he plays. You know, he's just all about wanting to score and get into the positions and help his team. And I love that. And I think that's why he's so beloved by the fans. Today, okay, I agree with Sean. He went for the Larson-esque chip. Now look, we've seen him do that sort of goal before, so he's got the ability. So I don't really mind him doing that. I think it's difficult when you're in a game against Rangers, because even though we were comfortable throughout the game, you're just like every opportunity to get further away in terms of scoreline and put the game beyond doubt. So it can be a wee bit frustrating when you see him miss a chance that really you're going to have to take. And certainly when we get to Europe, that's the kind of chance that we can't afford to miss. You know, if we get those opportunities, which will be much fewer and further between, it's really important that we show a degree of being clinical and being ruthless in front of goal. But throughout the game today, and you've pointed to a couple of defensive moments, I thought him and Maeda, they do that week in, week out. You know, they run back and they track back and they expend so much energy going back there to help their team. And I love that. That's something that I wouldn't be afraid to say that I think the bulk of my fellow fans enjoy that type of thing. They love to see players with that attitude and that ethic to get back and help defensively. But I love his movement. I really do. And I still don't think we're doing him justice as a team, because there are so many runs he does where he runs in between, he runs behind, he's got pace, he's got the timing is right. And I think, you know, we've got to take more advantage of that. And I'm hoping maybe the guys like Engels who are coming in, who, you know, seems to be quite prolific at getting assists, and, you know, Kuhn's starting to come into a real, you know, purple patch in terms of form, which is great. We've got players who can thread that ball through. Hatate done it today, as we saw for one of the goals. And I just really want us to, while we've got a player like Kyogo with that intelligent movement, with that, you know, that willingness to run and get in behind, I want to make sure we've got, you know, we show that we can take advantage of it. Because I think you're right. I think Kyogo could be not even a 20-plus goal striker, a 30-goal-plus striker, if we can just find the best way to get the ball to him. We're definitely better at it now than we were last season, but I think we are lucky to have him still with us at the club, and I think it's important that we actually utilise him to the best of his strengths. But yeah, delighted today for him. I know he missed a couple of chances, but look, he should have scored. He should have had two, you know, one that was unfairly ruled out. I think, you know, on another day, he gets maybe 3, possibly 4 on another day. So, yeah, delighted.
Absolutely delighted. And loads of great comments. We're going to run through some of them before we talk about Maeda, before we talk about McGregor, and, of course, Brennan Rodgers himself. Daniel F. is having a beautiful Sunday. I think a lot of us are definitely in agreement there. CJ, thanks for getting involved in the stream. Excellent Celtic. Tickets for Oasis in a 3-0 win. Great weekend. And the man in your avatar, you know, I remember Prodigy supporting Oasis. Where was that? Loch Lomond. I think that was it, Loch Lomond. Unfortunately, Keith Flint has sadly passed away since then. Tony Davoren Casper is CL level ready, I think he is. And Pinball Casper is a proper goalkeeper. Big Joe, great to see him in the stands, always great. And let's talk a wee bit about the captain. Kalmak is a diamond, absolute pro, superb on and off the ball, class act. And you look at his development as a Celtic player, Sean, we've seen every kick of the ball. You know, when he came into the side, he was 21. You know, a lot of these guys break in at 17 in James Forrest's case. But since he's come in, there's been a level of consistency, I think mainly in the last 5 or 6 seasons. And he is now a fully grown captain of this football club who can orchestrate the tempo of a game. He's, like you say, he's getting in amongst the goals. All 3 of his goals so far this season have been tremendous. I mean, that finish today was outstanding, almost placing it in, not panicking. Superb performance all round. And you just know that he's at that stage at 31 and the captain of the club that, and by the way, a lot of people didn't think he had captain material in him when Ange took over. You remember that. And he's the type of guy that you can confidently bring in a player like Engels or McCowan. First person up to McCowan when he came on the park was McGregor, telling him what to do, you know, showing him the way. And I think he's invaluable. He's absolutely tremendous. And when I spoke to him about him rather during the week, Sean, I said he can still do this for Celtic for another 2 or 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, was he 30, 31? I can't remember now. Yeah, he'd never be here for this long at this stage if he didn't bleed Celtic, and he does. I still remember his first goal. What I don't remember clearly was the name of the opposition. Was it Reykjavik? I can't remember now. It was a European game. I think
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
or Dela.
Under Tyler.
Yeah, and look, even there's been times, so many times where he's put the team on his back. You know, I remember the COVID season where we were dreadful, and we go to Ibrox and he scores the equaliser, just does it on his own. He's playing off left back and just carries the ball, and the only chance we had in the game, and he scores it. You know, like when we've been down in the dumps, he's been the one that's carried us, and when we've been up, he's held the standards, and I'm so glad that he's got such a strong team around him. He was, you know, an inch away from having a winner against Real Madrid, and I hope that we managed to do something for him. I hope that the other 10 guys around him managed to do something for him in Europe this season, and give him something to really, you know, to live with forever. Apart from all the amazing and incredible domestic success that he has and will continue to have.
The thing is, when I look at the team, obviously with Forrest making his 500th appearance, McGregor playing that captain's role and scoring the third goal, and as I say, you know, orchestrating the tempo of the game, you've got two players there, Kev, who have been at the football club since probably pre-teen, you know, 8 or 9 years of age, and they know the club inside out. But I always think we need to have a wave of that. We need a cycle of that. We need the next McGregor and Forrest to come through. I still think, even in the modern age, for a club like Celtic, it's important to have that as your heartbeat and your nucleus of your team. And we need to start bringing them through, because we don't have them at the moment. I know young Turley had started coming through. He wasn't on the bench today. That was a slight disappointment. Probably to be expected with us strengthening in the midfield. However, you do need that group of players to come through. And hopefully we can introduce them as the season goes on, because we need another McGregor. We need another Forrest for 10 years down the line, Kevin. And I think that's so important for the identity of Celtic Football Club.
Yeah, it is, and it's that last little bit that you mentioned there that makes it so important. It's for the identity of the club, because we've got the slogans, we're a club like no other and all that. And although the boardroom don't always show it, the club is the fans, it's the people, it's the players that represent them, and we're a different football club to everyone else in Scotland. I think, you know, we stand for something. We have it's a people in a cause, as Tommy Burns used to say, and we need to have guys in the dressing room that have come through that understand what it means. Because you know, if you're Engels and you're coming into that dressing room and you think it's okay to not win a game, to draw a game, then you're not welcome in the dressing room. I'm not saying that he's like that. It's just an example. But somebody like Callum McGregor will be there enforcing, and James Forrest didn't say, even Tony Ralston, enforcing it. At a club like Celtic, the standards are so high that you must win every game. And you must do it in a way that entertains the fans, that plays to a certain standard that we expect of our players. We don't mind not winning a game as long as we've shown the effort and we've been maybe beaten by the better team or whatever. But the standards that must be there. And somebody like Callum McGregor's got that. You see, he's been a ball boy. Same as somebody like David Marshall before that. You know, he's been a ball boy at these games before. You've seen him celebrating the goals as a 10-year-old boy or an 11-year-old boy, and now he's out there in the park and he's leading by example. And you can't beat that. You can't buy that. In fact, you can bring out a midfield player in that's got similar abilities and skill sets to Callum McGregor, but you can't buy the leadership. You can't buy the love for the club. You can't buy understanding of the club. The guys like him and James Forrest have got. It's really crucial that we have them. They are the culture, the identity of the club, and they're the role models that we want everyone to be following.
Yeah, it's so deeply rooted in players like that, isn't it? CJ, there's a lot of players come to the football club, Kevin, with no skin in the game, no connection to Celtic whatsoever, and they fall in love with the football club. Joe Hart was one of the guys. Yep. But I do think you need a core element of the squad who is the Ralston and the Forrest and the McGregor. And I think
the reason that Joe Hart falls in love with the club is because he's got guys like Callum McGregor around him.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not there, they'll come and they want to do well for themselves for personal pride. But McGregor, Forrest just instills what it means to be a Celt, and that's more important than anything. And then you see Joe Hart coming back today. If he doesn't have a McGregor influence on him, he probably doesn't want to come back quite the same. But he's got that, and he's now become a Celt because of the people that have been around him at the football club.
Yeah, he's a Celtic fan. I wonder how long it'll take before Matt O'Reilly comes and watches us as well. CJ, you're back in. Scary thing is we had a few more gears. We took it easy on them. And Elaine Vixer said, I wonder where all the Union Jack flag boys will be today. I've not seen many coming up in the comments. Come on, get involved so I can bring the comments up. Mount Kadath Maeda on Tavernier is like a terrier on a postman. A smirking terrier on a postman, I would add. Maeda, was it Maeda's influence, Sean, that prompted you to peroxide your hair? Was it Maeda or was it Massimo Donati?
I'll give you the answer that everyone thinks is the Luke McCown signing. The reality is I went for a haircut last week, and as the barber was giving me the clippers around the side, I could see all these hairs falling onto the smock that were not quite black or brown. They were somewhat grey. And I thought, I can probably get away with a couple of years of dyeing this white so nobody sees my grey hairs. So it might be a feature for the next 2 years until I'm too old to really rock it.
Kev, you could have given him a few recommendations about
I was going to say
whatever you want.
If you want it, I'll send it out in the post.
Absolutely. John Gilmore, Maeda was immense. It was immense. I mean, I remember saying at the end of last season, if Maeda's fit, he plays. It doesn't matter what. And we know that there are, certain elements of his game that aren't perfect technically. But Maeda is so important to this side. And you know what? I was looking at the Iwata departure during the week there the other day. I was thinking to myself, how many guys have we lost? So we've lost Iwata, Kobayashi, Edeguchi. But it doesn't feel like the end of an era, Chris, because really it was all about Maeda, Rio and Kyogo, wasn't it?
It was. They seem to have been the trio that have been part of the team for, I guess what it's about 3.5, 4 years now. They are all three tremendous footballers in their own right. Not a single one of them is what you'd call the perfect footballer, but they bring something unique to the team, each one. I mean, Kyogo's intelligent movement, his goals, his personality. The one thing they all share is their work ethic. But then you've got Hatate. Hatate's a bit more of a risk taker. Doesn't always come off, but when it does, it generally leads to a big moment or a goal. And Maeda just embodies everything for me that I want in a Celtic player. The work rate, the movement, the attitude, non-stop, never say die. I mean, honestly, that guy could have played for another 90 minutes at that pace. He is an absolute machine. I think someone's going to have to check him, make sure he's not got a metal endoskeleton like a Terminator, because the guy's energy levels is just unreal. I love all three of them. I think they are not token players. They're not players that were brought in to crack a market or for any point of revenue. These are guys who are top footballers who have come in and they add something brilliant to the club. I would be loath to see any of the three of them leave. I really would. I think they are going to be pivotal to our success this season and hopefully beyond. And I think, as I've said before, there are players I think who are worth more on the park than they ever could be off the park. I know we could sell any of the three players and make a huge profit on them. I would rather have them at the club. I would, all day long. Doesn't matter if we needed the money. I would rather have players like that on the park. I think they bring something tremendous, and really, really delighted. And interestingly, we talk about having players like McGregor on at the club and people who really understand what it means to the club. But similar to Joe Hart, you look at guys like Kyogo, you look at guys like Maeda, they now seem to be very much Celtic fans. You see the way they interact with the support. Kyogo's up doing the dance again at the end, which is wonderful to see. He's got the smile on his face, and that for me, you can't put a price on that. That's as I say, just so much more valuable to have at the club. So yeah, hope we have them for a good few years. Yeah,
they've absolutely embraced the culture of the Celtic Football Club and the fan base. Robert Forrest, Dyson has improved a lot under Brendan. He's now very consistent. Yeah, I agree with that. Barry O'Sullivan would come in to say, is there a better sight at Paradise than seeing the Poznan against them? Well done, boys. Absolutely, I love seeing that. Let's all do the huddle. Patrick Kerrigan, I was raised in Yorkshire and seen a lot of football, and there's no match in Britain as big as Celtic v Rangers, nor in my opinion as special a club as Celtic. Lovely comment. Thanks very much for getting involved. And Joseph Kelly paid for flight Wi-Fi just to see the highlights. What a set of goals, the things you do. I don't know what's raging on in the comments, but there's certainly no Palma haters on Acsom. What was
the Chris Boyd stuff is raging in the comments. I'm side-eyeing it right now. And Stallion Petrov and James McFadden are literally, I can't hear what's been said, but they're laughing at him and he is very animated. I'm going to need to watch this back later. It's become like, I feel like they just put him on for these games just for the post-match, just so people can laugh at him because he's so animated. I cannot hear what he's saying. But
he can't help himself.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, the thing with that is, he's not even doing it to play a caricature.
No.
A lot of the Chris Sutton stuff, right? And I've got to say, right, because I've had the absolute pleasure of doing a few gigs with him, there's a moment where Chris Sutton gets into character. There's a moment when he does it, right? And he's the same on the telly. Chris Boyd is just that guy. That's him. This is absolutely 100% genuine. This is how he reacts, and this is how he reacts. He's meant to be a professional broadcaster. Palma haters appear, and he's not even playing. Well, as I say, there's no Palma haters on Acsom. I think there were a couple of, or there was certainly interest from a couple of teams during the transfer window, but by that stage it looked as though we didn't have anything lined up, so he'll be part of the squad, he'll be part of the team. He did things last season, I think, where he still gives you that wee bit of hope that there's something there. I think the big question is, Kevin, and I'll throw this one to you, can he be managed? Can he be coached? Can he do what he's told? I'm thinking back to the semi-final of the Scottish Cup last season, where we put him on and he doesn't do what he's told. He loses possession, Aberdeen score the equaliser. He's that type of guy who's got all the technical ability, but maybe he's just not very coachable. What do you think?
Yeah, he seems to be that maverick kind of player. He can provide you with moments of magic and brilliance, and he's done it for us already. He's scored a few crackers, he's set up a few really good goals, but he seems like a very individual kind of player. He's not always one that's going to stick to the manager's guidelines and tactics. And that example against Aberdeen was a prime example of it. All he's got to do is hold on to the ball or play it down the other channel. Instead, he rushes the pass, gives it away, and Aberdeen take full advantage. I'm not sure he's a player that really can be coached into that. And I've got my doubts now as to whether he'll make it as a player with us because of that. If anyone can coach him, it will be Brendan, because that's what he does. He takes players aside, he works on them, and he tries to make them team players. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he is, and then also I'm not sure if you make him more of a team player, does it take away that bit of maverick that he's got about him? And that's the key element to his game. So maybe he's just that, he's a good player in the wrong team. But, a player that can give you moments of spark and inspiration.
I think he's frustrating. You've seen him in the Champions League last season, scoring a goal and almost, well, he scored against Lazio, obviously. We know what happened with that goal being chopped off. There were other moments of brilliance. One that always springs to my mind, outside of the right boot against Aberdeen for O to score the header. He's got it, but sometimes it comes down to whether or not he's going to take instructions on board and he's going to be coached and allow Brendan Rodgers to coach some of the rough edges out of him. I hope he can. I hope he can come through this. But at this moment in time, it's something of a concern that if Maeda is injured or if he's missing, there's a drop down. No, I'm not even going to say it in quality, but there's a drop. There's levels and there's tempo and passing. I'm going back into the John Collins thing here. There's tempo that drops if you bring Palma on for Maeda. And that's my big concern. CJ, this is your hat trick. Controversial, but Maeda is our most important player. And Monica Queen, I'm going to let you have the last word. I'm going to have to go for a run to calm down. I'm pretty sure the rest of us will need to go and calm down, maybe with a wee beverage or two. But a few weeks ago, Monica, Terry Christian was on this show. This is Acsom. Get it watched on the Friday night. And we spoke about the word. Who remembers the word? How good
I remember that. Yeah. Channel 4.
It was brilliant. And this week of all weeks, they were the guys, and Terry was the guy that gave Oasis the first national TV appearance on the word. But there's been lots of really good appearances on the word. Nirvana, for example. Snoop Dogg versus Emu. You'll remember that. Oliver Reed getting drunk in the dressing room. But if you want to watch a little word clip tonight, go and check out the Word from 1994, a band called Thrum with a song called So Glad. There you go. And I'll shout that one out to you, Monica. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. And thank you for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.